Hello everybody. Welcome once more back to my channel. This is SpWz with a little bit more about Dungeon Crawl. This is not going to be a video run like my last, I want to say 20 videos have been, so for those of you expecting action, you might want to skip ahead to the next video. Bear with me. I also apologize for the unregistered hypercam notation up here. I'm not sure what happened, but it crashed, and I'm starting to think maybe they, I don't know, are missing a license file or something. At least the program still works, so I was able to record this for you. Those of you who have been following my channel will have noticed that I was playing a Felid Berserker of Trog named Skyfer, and I've lately grown rather dissatisfied with the run. I'll explain my reasons for that, and then move on from there, and then tell you guys what I'm planning to do next. So, Berserkers in Crawl... don't do this to me. Berserkers in Crawl are a fairly straightforward race to play. They have the innate ability to gain a ton of health, a ton of damage, thanks to their haste and their temporary hit points through Berserk. They can regenerate, they can hit stuff. They don't take a lot of brains to play, frankly. And they work in so many different scenarios as to really beggar the imagination, compared to certain other races which are much more difficult to play. Take the Mountain Dwarf Berserker, for example, one of my first vids that I actually made, and frankly a race that I strongly recommend to beginners no matter what. Mountain Dwarf Berserker gets +3 to armor, so it's going to become a tank, +2 to axes, +1 or 2 to maces, I forget which, so, you know, it's going to become a brutal smacker, and gets fighting ability. It starts the game with everything it likes, and it can go up from there with all the armors it can acquire. That's a really good set of abilities. The limitations of being a Berserker, however, are that you get locked out of range pretty badly. With the exception of wands, which pretty much everybody can use in Zap to hit things from a distance, all a Berserker can do at range is summon Trog's allies using Brother-in-Arms. Beyond that, you've got nothing going for you. And as a Felid, you can't even do that, because you've got no hands, you have no armor, so you can't buff your AC, which is something which a Berserker ought to be doing. And you can't pick up weapons, so you can't actually make good on your massively bonus damage and attacks. Frankly, it's a bad way to play a Felid, and I'm kind of beginning to regret having made such a strong start with Skyfer, and I'm beginning to see, oh, it doesn't work so well, because I can't pick stuff up from range. So I messed around with a few other ways to play a Felid, because I really do like the idea of playing a cat, and I've settled on an interesting build where you begin as a wizard, because I like starting magic users as wizards often, and then end as a summoner, and I'll go into that a little bit more. To recap on what I have on my channel thus far, I began with the Mountain Dwarf Berserker, so that's a good way to play a Berserker, and we got a good glimpse of that in melee gameplay. I also have this friggin' wizard named Zap, who really was a Conjurer when you look at his spell list and the way he plays the game. And I also played a series called the 5 Elves 5 Live series, where I use a hunter build, except that you begin as a Conjurer and then turn into a hunter, so you have a little bit of magic to work with to get you through the early game before buffing your bows to insanely high levels. So that's 3 different play styles that are all very fun, and while you guys, I don't think I've posted these vids, but I did do a Deep Dwarf Necromancer as well, and I had a Naga of SpWz that I ran for a while. It's not, I wouldn't say it fits very neatly into any of these categories, but, you know, think Venom Mage or Conjurer with, you know, a splash of SpWz skills, and you've got an interesting style going. So, one very distinctive playstyle I haven't even touched yet is the Summoner. I've messed around with Summoners before. Mummy Summoners were one class that I was told to try, and I tried, and frankly I did not like very much, for reasons I'll get into someday when I eventually meddle with, when I discuss Crawl's balance and style. I went with Kenku's for a while because they had the best aptitudes, and actually let me pull up a list of aptitudes to show you guys. Here we go. So here we've got spellcasting, conjurations, summoners, etc. Kenku get +2 to their summonings, and +3 to conjurations, 0 to spellcasting, so they're pretty buff when it comes to coming down with, just serious attack power. Compare that to, say, Felids, who only have +1 to their summoning, and, they got the 0 here, but then -1 to conjurations. And, the classic mage would be the Deep Elf, who gets +4 to spellcasting, which is ginormous, +1 to summoning, +1 to conjurations. So you got a decent range of talents and abilities here. So why go with a Felid as a summoner, as opposed to, say, a Kenku? Well, first let's go into what Felids have in terms of their talents. Firstly, they're innately stealthy. I'm not talking about their stealth bonus, which is actually also very good. I'm talking about something which must be, come on, show me where they are, Felid, +3 to stealth. I'm not just talking about that bonus, which is, very good, not as good as, like, the Spriggan or the Nut, but very good. I'm talking about some innate property that probably comes from the fact that they're tiny little cats with quiet paws, etc., compared to, say, big loud centaurs that clatter around. I actually popped up wizard mode and tested this, and like you can have 10 levels of stealth as a centaur and not be as stealthy as a Felid who's got like 1 or 2 levels. I'm guessing that there must be an extra property that determines just how stealthy you get to become overall, and that mixes together to produce an end result that the Felid becomes more stealthy. Speed I'm not sure about, but they definitely feel faster than your average creatures in the dungeon. I could be wrong about this, so I need to look it up, but they can escape from situations that otherwise I've seen slower creatures not escape from. They also start off with carnivore, which means that they can eat chunks even when they're full, all the way up to engorged level of consumption. And they have the slow digestion or metabolism, so they don't need to eat as often, unlike, say, trolls that have the -3. Spriggans are better. I think they're +3, but they're not carnivores, they're herbivores, which is very limiting. As a Felid, you will very rarely, if ever, have to worry about your hunger status from spellcasting, and that is such a huge boost when you're used to playing a Spriggan who always has to worry about it. Further, in terms of problems, they have no armor, weapon, or wand usage, which vastly limits the amount of enchantments you can have. Generally, you rely on your armors to get your resist fire, your resist cold, and your resist necrotics, and any one of these can also provide you some resistance to poison. You can also get resist poison out of your weapons, and frankly, when you get to the point where you're powerful enough to take on a lot of the dungeon, sometimes it's worth just storming the swamp to kill a swamp drake or swamp dragon, carve its hide, and turn that into armor to get resist poison. So one way or another, resist poison can often come from armor, or often it's your only guaranteed source. As a Felid, you are completely limited. You can only wear rings and amulets. These are the only 2 things you can actually wear, and both of those can carry resist poison, but it's rare, so often you'll have resist poison issues. This means that if you can avoid poison enemies or disable them without getting hit by them, it's really beneficial. And Trog does not give you that ability, because you have to go up there in melee range and smack them, and you can't disable them with wands, and you can't use magic. Also, just generic stuff. They have evade +3, hex +4, summoning +1, see invisible. They got reasonable overall aptitudes. They're not like, say, mummies, which are clearly a challenge race with -2 across the board and slow experience gain. Their experience gain rate is, well, I remember it was reasonable, 140, which is, as you see, part of the course for most races in this game. Finally, they have a dubious benefit of having multiple lives. Granted, you lose a level every time you use up a life, but that's really not... I wouldn't treat multiple lives as a benefit so much as I would treat it as an excuse to get better faster. When you have to go back to the beginning of the game, when you're first learning to meddle with a build, it really detracts from your ability to learn to play. When you're able to be like, alright, I screwed it up, but I get to continue a little bit, and then die twice and that's it, you learn a bit more. Felids get lives, like I think 1 life every 3 or 4 levels, and then every time you die, you use up a life and go down a level of experience. So dying 2 or 3 times in a row can really screw you up. If you're a level 13 and you're a little behind level, and then you die twice and you're a level 11, yeah, you're going to be in serious trouble trying to level back up and wasting a lot of experience. Frankly, there are times you just want to quit the game because you realize you're not going to catch up. But that's one more thing the Felids have going for them. So these are their properties. That's why I feel like they make okay summoners. In Crawl, a Conjurer has a few benefits and a few negatives. You guys have, if you haven't seen my Conjurer videos with the Spriggan Wizard Zap, I strongly recommend it. But basically, they get powerful burst damage, and they can do CC against multiple targets or AoE damage, depending on what spells they take, with Fireball or Lightning or Bolt of Fire, or Mephitic Cloud or Fireball, Or for just powerful burst damage, we're talking like Isekundren's Magic Blast, or what's another good single target spell? Earth. I forget what it's called, where you throw a crystal, not a crystal spear, a shard of earth at somebody. But there's other good spells they've got in that category. Ultimately, though, I would say they optimize for 1v1 fighting pretty well. You want to be able to go up to an enemy and use your level 4 ability 3 or 4 times. Once for when it hits but doesn't do any damage, once for when it misses, once for when it crits, and once for when it does enough damage to bring him to crippled. And then you can do your level 1 once or twice to finish him off. And that's 18 mana just to kill one enemy. The advantage being, you often can kill that enemy in 1 or 2 turns immediately before they have a chance to really do much to react. And since you're the only one killing them, you get full experience from it, as opposed to, splitting experience with your allies. On the flip side, they don't get much benefit from stealth. It's not like they get to choose their time to attack and they can be clean. Once they declare an attack, they either stay and finish it, or they run away as best they can, and the enemy regenerates fully. So I would say that training up stealth beyond level 5 for a Conjurer doesn't really help much at all. You'll often be drawn, once you choose to have a conflict, you're stuck with that conflict. Also, when you are out of mana, you're completely up your creek without paddle as a Conjurer. Say that you go up to an enemy that should die in 2 hits, so you blast them with 3 level 4 attacks, and now you have just 4 mana left because 2 of them missed, or 1 of them miscasted, or something that sucks, right? And you're like, do I want to hit him with my last 4 mana, or do I just want to run away and hold these 4 in escrow in case something goes wrong? And you're like, fuck it, I'll take the risk, and you launch and you attack and you hit, and he goes to crippled, but he doesn't die. Now what do you have? You have 0 out of 16 mana, nothing to do, nothing on the screen that's an ally, everything's going to be against you. In fact, you quickly learn as a Conjurer never to spend your last 3 mana on an attack. Well, I mean, after the early game. Always spend those last 3 mana to get out of trouble. Summoners play very differently. They do not have very solid burst damage. They're kind of subpar in their burst damage. Say that I'm a Spriggan and I'm running around, and on the edge of my vision comes a Ice Beast. The first thing I think is, okay, he's 5 spaces away. That gives me 3 or 4 turns to attack him. Turn 1, Isekundren's Mystic Blast. Turn 2, Isekundren's Mystic Blast. Turn 3, same. He'll be dead. No question. That's a lot of damage to heap on him. He's not going to make it. Of course, I just spent 12 mana, so it's a pretty high commitment. As a summoner, I see, let's say, a Necrophage coming towards me, so it's something I can't Mephitic, right? Now what do I do? Well, he's 5 spaces away, but I have no attack that can hit him this turn. You see what I'm saying? If I summon, that summon could appear anywhere around me. There's no reason to believe it will appear on top of him. So I have to set it up. So let's say I summon an imp, because I'm being stupid and I want a level 2. Okay, but the Necrophage isn't going to attack me next. He's going to walk towards me. Okay, so then I'll summon something else. I'll summon an Ice Beast. I'll summon, pick whatever else you want. A Canine Familiar and 2 Mammals. So now I've spent the same 4 turns. I cast a level 2 spell, a level 2 spell, a level 3 spell, and a level 4 spell. So that's 4, 3, 2, 2. That's 11 mana. A little bit less than our Conjurer spent. Say for argument's sake that I'm very low on mana now. On the screen, there are now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6-ish allies of mine. 1 or 2 of whom are tanky, 1 or 2 of whom have decent evade. All of them to physically block the necrophage from reaching me. All of them there to beat him up. In short, meat shields like crazy, and inbuilt massive CC because this guy no longer can physically reach me, and if 2 or more enemies show up, no problem, my allies can beat them up as well or hold them off. Most importantly, I'm not obligated to stay and fight. Say that the necrophage got 2 critical hits and oh crap, my attack isn't working. But I'm whittling him down. I don't have to make the choice, let me run away, I'll get all my health back, he'll get all his health back, and we'll try this again, like a Conjurer would do. Instead, it'll be like, I'm going to walk away while my allies beat him up. And he'll continue to lose health, and I'm just fine. So it's a very different style of play. If it was, say, an Orc Priest, I'd be more concerned that, well, he only needs a couple turns to really hurt me. I mean, Orc Summoner. You don't get that same luxury of those 4 to 5 turns to finish him off. So you gotta recognize your threats and know how to deal with them. The problem is this. Because you're fighting with allies, your allies often will get kills and you'll just get the collateral kill, and that means you only get like 50-60% experience. That means you level up slower. So that's a very big danger. Felids fit summoners really well, in my opinion. They're innately stealthy, so the huge benefit from stealth being I can run up to a creature, hide in its peripheral vision, have plenty of time to pre-cast my summons, as opposed to the Conjurer who would literally get 1 shot off before he's noticed. And then, if I'm noticed, well, too bad. I have all the meat shields I need. If I'm not noticed, I sick my mobs on this creature, and then I run the opposite direction. No muss, no fuss. Felids are also speedy, and so they can get away more easily. They eat the meat, so they can spam, and they got more corpses to deal with. Most importantly, because they're so frail, I didn't point this out. I should have pointed this out earlier. So let's pull up HP. Let's just look at the standard wizard classes. You've got your Kenku at -2, right? You've got your Deep Elf, who's at a -2. High Elf at -1. Yeah. Felids, -4. They're very frail, even by wizard standards. Spriggans, by comparison, are -3. These guys have no health. So, as a summoner, you'll want to keep your distance, and they can do that. Anywho, so I look forward to my next vids where I will be running a certain iteration of a Felid summoner, and we'll see how that goes when I get up to close. Alright. This is ElfCj signing off for now. Thanks for listening. I'll catch y'all later.